got with me the Hyundai Creta, the car that so many of you have been asking so much about. And now you know the prices. We've already done a preview on the show before as well. It is time to bring you all the details on it. Now Hyundai is calling it the perfect SUV. Is that too much of a stretch? Is it just marketing jargon? Or is there some truth to it? Well, the only way to really figure that out is to put it to the test against its benchmark in the space. And that's always been that car.
Yeah, Siddharth, you got to take that perfect SUV tag for the Creta with a pinch of salt really, because it's got the looks, it's got the features, but does it come together as a package in terms of impressive driving dynamics and performance? And that's what we're going to find out.
The Hyundai Creta is based on the same platform as the new i20 and has finally come to us after much waiting. What works for the car are its well-designed proportions and good looks. It has been launched with 2 diesel engines and 1 petrol. Pricing is premium, sadly, at between 8,59,000 and 11,19,000 rupees for the petrol and 9,46,000 to 13,60,000 rupees for the diesel variants. Now the Duster has always been sort of weird looking, and that's what I've always liked about it. There are enough of them on the road now, so really there's no question about its looks. It's been accepted in India for sure. The Creta is the beauty pageant winner. Again, no doubt about that too. Just look at it. The 2 cars next to each other, plain Jane and, I don't know, Miss USA or Miss Korea actually. And, you know, the weird thing, which I just can't seem to figure out, internationally, most car makers, including Hyundai, are obsessed with daytime running lights. Most cars seem to have them across all segments. Here, you do have these nice LEDs, which look pretty sharp. We came through some tunnels and I got to see some of them in my rear view. They look really nice. But it's just a parking light. I can't understand why, because it could have been a nice differentiator in this space, especially because the other car that fits around the same sort of price band also has that same quirk. That, of course, is the Mahindra XUV 500. And it's the other car that the Creta does need to take on in some senses, but it is still the better looking one, even in that comparison. Yes, it's very pretty. The styling is Hyundai's Fluidic Sculpture 2.0 design language, which is accentuated by the headlamps, front grille, the rising waistline and the tail lights. The Duster looks chunkier and wider and is bigger anyway. The Duster with Bala and Me is the 4-wheel drive with a 108 bhp 1.5-litre DCI engine, and it has a 6-speed manual gearbox. Now the Duster also has 2 diesels and 1 petrol. It has all-wheel drive but no automatic yet. The Creta has no 4x4 but does have automatic, as you know, which is the car with us too. So, apples and oranges? In a sense, yes, but there's enough in common here too for us to check out the 2 cars and compare them. And remember, we are comparing models really, not just one variant of each. So the first thing I wanted to do was to get both cars out on the road. Both cars come across as well-engineered and modern. The Creta has a terrific suspension which handles all that you can throw at it within reason. The Duster, though, has also proved to be tough in this department, but the Creta does it with aplomb. Another part that you will like is the car's handling. It is a nice taut sense you get from it, and I have to say though, of course, that there's a little bit of body roll that creeps in only at really high speeds and primarily when you're cornering or in fact just on a sort of a bank on a highway. But otherwise, for the most part, it's a nice satisfying feel that you get. The suspension setting as well as the way the overall car's road manners respond is something that I think most people will appreciate. Not so much in comparison with the Duster, but more so in comparison with other cars like the XUV 500. Only the top-end Creta has ESC or Electronic Stability Control, and on the Duster 2, it's only standard on the all-wheel drive variants. The Creta is hit by the lack of a precise steering, which has no feedback and has too much play in it. The Duster, though, has no such troubles for a car of this size. Well, the weather has been such that we've certainly had our fair share of different kinds of surfaces, wet, dry, and then of course a fair amount of water to go through. So in a sense, a nice way to be able to test both these cars. Now, I have to say that it was almost something I expected going into it, and so I'm not surprised to tell you that the Duster certainly handles better. It's a lot surer of itself, and it gives you a tremendously satisfying drive feel overall. But the part that has surprised me is the ride quality, because on that front, the Creta, not just the fact that it's a slightly quieter car, but even the fact that it feels a lot better. The suspension setup on that car is a lot more comfort oriented. It swallows potholes a lot better. And so if you want that typical belligerent SUV feel, you get that on the Duster. But really, I think most buyers would like the more comfortable ride feel that you do get on the Creta. So the Creta lacks a good steering but wins on ride quality. What about performance? The Creta's 1.6-litre engine itself is reasonably peppy and powerful, and more so on the manual, but not all that exciting on the auto.
Now, the 1.6 diesel automatic on the Creta has really been tuned for city driving. Doesn't mind ambling around in traffic, it does it without a fuss. But as you push the pedal down, the turbo lag really kills it. It takes its own sweet time to kick in, and when it does kick in, there's a loud growl like that from the engine, almost telling you, hey, hang in there, we're almost there.
The Duster has 2 iterations of its diesel engine, and we've got the most powerful one, of course. As I said, it's the all-wheel drive option. Renault is said to be working on offering an automatic gearbox option by the year end, but that hasn't been confirmed by the company.
Now, the 1.5-litre DCI engine on the Duster is clearly the more fun engine to drive. It's nice and torquey with minimal turbo lag, so you can really let it out on the highway and have some fun. Although at lower speeds, it does get a little noisy inside the cabin, so the NVH levels aren't as impressive as the Creta. But with minimal turbo lag, which is something that the Creta really suffers from, the Duster engine is the real more fun car to drive.
The Creta does indeed have a significantly quieter cabin, with wind noise and road noise much lower than the Dusters. Hyundai hasn't let us have a stab at the 1.4 CRDI Creta, so we can't really tell you how it compares to the 85 PS Duster. But going by the like engines we know from the Verna, the Duster is likely to stay ahead here too. The advantages of the Creta also lie in its cabin layout and fit, but it lacks the roominess of the Duster. It's a well laid out dash. It's also finished pretty well, and the seats are comfortable. You've got a driver's seat which is height adjustable, all the connectivity options that you expect these days, steering mounted controls, a good trip computer, and there's a big touch screen here as well on the high end, which includes navigation. So really everything you can think of, including a reverse camera, which also shows up on that screen. So from that perspective, and also ergonomically, it's a great cabin. It's also very quiet by comparison. Even though the engine clatter on the diesel is pretty high, overall, I have to say that when you're going on the road on high speeds, especially on the highway, overall, compared to the Duster especially, you'll find that this is a more comfortable cabin, though the sense of space is perhaps the only thing that's lacking, and lighter colors could have helped that.
Now, you do sit fairly low in the rear seat of the Creta, so that means there's more than sufficient headroom available than what you saw on the Duster. Also, fair amount of leg room, and shoulder room is also pretty good, so sitting 3 adults in the rear seat won't be too much of a problem. But where things get a little bit more cramped are the windows, which feel fairly small thanks to the rising belt line.
It's a lot more basic here. The layout is functional, it's also well finished, but that's about it. Even though feature-wise the two cars aren't too dissimilar, it was the Duster that first brought the touchscreen and the navigation into this space, but the rest of it is, like I said, basic. It just does the job. It is a comfortable cabin. It gives you a great sense of space because it is very roomy and it's spacious, all right. And it's a nice commanding position of the road that you get on this one.
And also a couple of things that the Duster doesn't have and makes a lot of difference for people sitting here are the rear AC vents, what you get on the Creta, and the seats here are a little more upright, while the Creta has more reclining seats, so slightly more comfortable on long journeys.
And then comes the aspect of prices. Variant for variant, the Creta is priced marginally higher than the Duster. Hyundai could have done what it usually does and undercut the rivals by pricing aggressively and compelling competition to react. By going higher, Hyundai may have also done this because of its constrained production capacity, and that way it won't feel the pressure as it otherwise would have to deliver a whole lot of Cretas. It still claims 18,000 bookings for the Creta, so good luck with waiting periods. But the higher prices mean that Renault, Nissan with its Terrano, and even the Ford EcoSport or the Mahindra SUVs will all be breathing a sigh of relief. So what's the bottom line, you ask? The Duster stays the segment benchmark and takes this face-off. Not by a huge margin, of course, and on many aspects the Creta is ahead. For many buyers, the Creta will seem more appealing, and rightly so. But in this competition, I am choosing the car that better represents this segment in terms of performance, attribute, and very importantly, aspiration. And therefore for me, albeit with a slim margin, the Duster, the Renault Duster, is our winner.